Hello, welcome to Tabletop CP. Today I'm going to be doing a painting tutorial on the American War of Independence Continental Line Infantry. So I'm starting to get into sharp practice. I'm decided to go with the American War of Independence because I like the setting, it's interesting to me, and the models are cool. So I've gone with the Warlord Games black powder plastic sets. I bought one box each of the red coats and of the Continental Line. So this will be the last of the Continental Line I need to paint to finish the box, to finish that box. So this is the standard I'm going to be going for right here. I'm going for tabletop standard. Not doing a lot of highlighting or anything because I want to get these guys done. I want to get them on the board, maybe film some battle reports and such. So after I'm done with these, maybe the next armies I do, I'm thinking Civil War. I might spend a little bit more time on them, on highlighting and making them look better, but I'm just going for a tabletop standard on these. So I guess that's it. So we'll be painting this guy up, and we'll go ahead and get started. Alright, so as usual I got my wet palette here. Keep the paint moist. So the first thing we're going to do is paint the uniform coat. So I always like to start at the bottom layer of the deepest part of the model, so the uniform, and work my way up. So that way if you get anything on the next level up, you can just paint over it as you're building up. So the stuff he wears on top will be painted last, like the straps and stuff like that. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use Prussian blue to paint the coat. So there's the Prussian blue layer. That's the base color for his uniform, and it's really the only color sorry about that, I'm going to use on the coat. So next thing we're going to do is all the white. So these guys have a lot of white on them. These straps across his back that are holding his bread bag, his cartridge pouch, they're white, as well as his pants, and that's about it for the white. His undershirt there is white as well. So there's a lot of white on these, and that's kind of what takes a long time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually use a stone gray color and go over all the white with this first, because painting white directly on could take many coats, but putting a layer of a lighter color down before you do the white will actually speed up the process, because you're not going over a gray, you're going over a lighter color with the white. So also with these guys, since these are colonials, I've kind of done a little bit of making a mix match a little bit. So like this guy has a buff color, they call it, pants. So some of them have white, some of them have buff color pants. I think what I'll do is I'm going to do the buff color pants on this guy as well. So for buff color, I use Iraqi sand. But first I'm going to do the white. So I'll take the stone gray, and you can use an off-white or a light gray color to do the same thing, but I've just been using stone gray. So I'll go over the cartridge belt straps and the waist, or I forgot what they call that, small clothes or something like that, the shirt that he's wearing underneath his coat. Of course the bread bag's white as well, so, and as well as the, I forgot what they call it, the thing around his stock, I believe. The stock that he wears around his neck is also going to be white. So I'll use the stone gray to paint all the white parts. So there it is. We've gone over all the stuff that's going to be white. with the stone gray. So the edging around the bottom of the jacket, straps, red bag, and the stock. So now we're going to do the pants in buff, just to add a little mix match look to the unit. Some are white, some are buff. I even have some that are buff pants with white gaiters, or white gaiters with buff pants, just to really give them that, you know, piece together look. Although they all have the same jacket, so that makes them all one unit. Let's go ahead and take the Iraqi sand, and we'll paint the gaiters and the pants. Oh, and I forgot, I also hit the shirt. I forgot, I gotta hit that with the stone gray as well. So we got the buff color on the pants. And I'm not doing too thin layers and all that. Like I said, tabletop, I'm doing, well, two sort of thin layers just to smooth it out. So now what I'm going to do is, now that the stone gray is dry, I'm going to go back and go over the white parts with the actual white. And for the white, I'm using it's pallid witch flesh. So it's a sort of off-white. It's not a true white, but it's white enough. As you can see here, it's pretty white. I don't want it to be super bright, so it's the off-white is a good choice. So I'll just go back over all the stone gray parts with the pallid witch flesh. Okay, so over the with the white, doesn't have to be perfect, because we're going to go over it again after the wash. But you can add maybe 2 coats of the white to smooth it out. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to paint the musket, and just my old standby mahogany brown for that. So I'll go ahead and do the musket. Now I painted the musket, the wood on the musket. I also went back and hit the strap, or I'm sorry, the sling for the rifle or the musket with white as well. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to paint the barrel and the bayonet and the canteen with the metal color, which I'm going to be using just oily steel. So I painted the metal now. It's a little messy on the musket. It got a little bit over because the barrels on these aren't well defined. So you just kind of have to drag along the top and then try to get a little bit on the sides. But some of it got down on the stock of the musket, but we're going to clean that up at the end when we go back over the mahogany brown again. So next thing we're going to do is paint the black parts. So the black parts are going to be his boots, his cartridge case, his hat, and yeah, that's it. That's it for black. So for that I'm just using just regular old black. Done with the black, so what we're going to do next is the facings and the collar and the cuffs. So the way these guys designated each other unit wise was by the color of the facings. So these guys are going to have a red facing, so red collar, red cuffs, red facing, which is this part of the jacket, the flap, the open flap part, and it'll be red. So this is the 1st Maryland infantry unit. That's who these guys are. And their colors were blue jacket with red facing. So for red, I'm using this Evil Sun Scarlet. It's a nice color. It's a nice kind of bright red, so it really makes these guys pop. And same color I used for the red coats as well, because their red coats were actually a scarlet color. So we'll go ahead and paint the facings. So done with the facings, and we are now done blocking in all of the colors. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just go over it with a wash, the whole model. And what I'm using for these guys has been this Army Painter soft tone ink. Now, I usually use Agrax Earthshade, but that kind of lends itself to a dirty appearance, which is fine for World War II guys. But I wanted these guys to look clean. Pretty much I want them to look like toy soldiers is what I want. I'm not going for realism, I want them to look bright. I want them to look like toy soldiers. So I don't want a dirty appearance, so this soft tone, it'll add the shade into the recesses, but it won't give that kind of grungy looking overall effect that Agrax can sometimes give. So I'll go ahead and put this on. I'll just take a big brush and go over the whole model and let it dry, and when it's dry we'll come back and we'll start the next step. Alright, the wash is now dry, so there's the model. You could stop there if you really wanted to and it'd be perfectly fine, but I want it to look bright, so I'm going to go back over all the colors with the same color again. I'm going to try to leave the recesses dark when I can, and yeah, so that'll do it. I'll also hit the hat, the black parts with a German gray to highlight them. But that's really the only highlighting I'm going to do. The rest of it's just going to be the base color back on top again, leaving the recesses dark to add a little bit of shadow. So I'll go ahead and start by going back over the uniform, the coat. Alright, blue on the jacket, so it brightened it up a little bit. Next thing I'm going to do is back over the white with the Pallid Witch Flush. At this point I'm also going to get the top edge of the hat, which is white. That way I'm always going to make mistakes on that, but once I do that I can get the black and just clean it up, clean up the hat a little bit. So I'll do the white, all the white, and then add the edging onto the hat. So I've gone over the white. I usually do a couple of coats of the white just to smooth it out. One coat leaves it looking a little rough, but if you just go over it again with the white or the Pallid Witch Flush, it'll make it look a lot smoother. Alright, so now I'm going to do the buff color on the pants. So I'll just get the Iraqi sand and go over the pants with a couple of thin coats, try to leave as much of the recess as you can. It's not real easy. You can do it if you pick it all out with the brush, but I'm not really spending a lot of time on these. I could be lightening up the blue and going over the tops of the creases to really bring them up, but like I said, I want to get these first guys done so that I can get started playing. We've been playing a few games already, just practice games, but I want to get some official games in, so I need a force to do that. So these guys are the first force I'm going to build, so I'm just trying to get them done. So now I will go over the buff pants with the Iraqi sand. And now that I'm done with the pants, I will do the musket and all the metal. So I'll go over with the mahogany brown, as well as the oily steel, the musket, the barrel, the bayonet, and the canteen. Alright, so that's the rifle, or the metal and the wood is done. So the next thing I'm going to do is the black. Actually, first I'll do the red facing first, since I gotta look for my gray paint. But so I'm just going to take the what was it, Evil Sun Scarlet, and just go back over the tops of the facings. If you can find any recesses that are dark, try to leave them. And then I'll go ahead and do that, and we'll move on to the next step. Alright, so now on to the black parts. So I'm going to use some German gray and just go over the tops of the boots, along the edges of the hat on the bottom, and around the edges of the cartridge box. And also, before I do that, I'm going to take the black and just like clean up under the hat brim there where the white got over when I was doing the edging on the hat. And also, there's one detail on here that we're going to do, and that is on the hat. There's two little lines here that need to be white. And also on this thing here, there's a little piece that's white as well. So once we get all the highlighting done, I'll get my detail brush and then go in and hit those little parts that need to be white. Alright, so that's pretty much it for the painting of the model itself, aside from the skin. One little detail, another detail that I pick out is on the facings there's some buttons. So I'm going to just get some dark, I use the surface primer. It's a really dark gray. It's not black. I don't want it to be black. I want it to be dark gray. So I'll just use this, and I'll just tap on these little buttons with it just to pick them out. Alright, now on to the skin. As everyone knows, my favorite part of the model. So I'm keeping with the theme here. I'm just going to keep it very simple. Go on with the highlight flesh, and then I'm going to just hit the high parts, nose, cheekbones, chin, top of the hands, knuckles, with a little bit of the pallid witch flesh, and then I will just go over all of it with some Reichland flesh shade. So pretty much the most basic skin you can get, but it looks fine at tabletop distance. Alright, so there we are, done with painting the model. So there he is. So now I'm going to move on to the base. I'm just keeping it simple. So I'm going to go over the base with the just generic brown. And I'm going to paint the edge of the base and then dry brush over the brown with this tan earth. And then once that's all dry, I will add a little bit of summer static grass and a tuft of grass as well. And then it will be done, and then we'll take a look at the whole force together. Alright, so here he is, all finished. So let's go ahead and put him here at the end of the line. And This force is complete, or the box I should say. The force is not. I do plan on buying, or I already have bought, it's on the way, a box of Colonial Militia. So I'll have 2 groups of 10 militia, and then these 2 groups of 8 Colonial Line Infantry. And I also have a group of 6 light infantry skirmishers. So I put these guys on round bases, the skirmishers. And I also have, when I get the Colonial box, I'm going to make a group of skirmishers out of them as well. So there's my skirmishers. These guys paint up exactly the same way, same colors and everything. They have different hats. So the militia, the skirmishers, what separates them is they have a short coat instead of the long coat that the line troops are wearing, and they wear a different hat. So these guys are wearing a round hat, and just to keep up with the kind of ragtag look of the force, I've made a couple of them are wearing the light infantry helmet, including the officer. And then over here in the line troops, I got my 2 lines. I made these movement trays for them, so it makes them a lot easier to move around. And I also have a guy with the flag, the Betsy Ross flag. I'm not sure how historically accurate that is, but I wanted that flag. I also got a piper and a drummer. So all 3 of these, the flag, the piper, and the drummer, are actually support choices in this game, which is kind of cool. I believe I know the piper and the drummer will add double the command range of the officer, and also add +1 to your roll to regain control over troops that are firing uncontrolled. And my officer, level 3 officer, is kind of bland looking. I'm going to get the cannon box as well, and they have some mounted officers in there, which I think will look a lot cooler for a level 3 leader. Once I get that, he'll probably be bumped down to a level 2 leader. And I also want to get a level 1 leader like a sergeant. What I'm going to do for that is I'm going to paint up, the red coat box actually comes with a sergeant with a musket, so I'll probably just paint him up as a colonial guy. There's not really a whole lot of difference between a red coat and a colonial infantryman. And it's got a red coat here. Really the only difference is I'm sorry about that, the bottom half. Instead of having the gaiters that go all the way down, they're white, they have a black gaiter over black boots. So that's really the only difference between colonial infantrymen and a red coat, is the gaiters. The rest of them are identical, so I'll just paint up the red coat sergeant as one of these guys, and that'll be fine. So, but yeah, there's my first 2 groups. It's a good sized formation of regular Colonial Line Infantry, officer, flag, drummer, fifer, and the skirmishers. So I look forward to getting some games in with these guys. We've already played a couple practice games and we've enjoyed it. So yeah, so now I'm working to finish the first box of red coats, and when I get done with the last guy, I'll do a quick tutorial like this on them as well. And I have a brand new box sitting here of red coats that I need to start assembling. So in the end, my plan is to have, for these guys, the Americans, I'm going to have 2 groups of the line troops. I'm going to have 2 groups of 10 colonial militia. I'm going to have 2 groups of 6 skirmishers, as well as the officer, and a cannon, and the officers. And for the red coats, I'm going to have 4 groups of red coats, 2 groups of light infantry, and they can form line. They can fight in line, or they can fight as skirmishers. So, plus they're going to have flags, drummer, and officers as well, and a cannon. So, anyway, that's it for this one. I hope you liked it, and we'll see you for the next video.